Good evening, folks. Before I hit the hay, I just want to talk about the other leagues, okay? So we're always kind of talking about um, Unrivaled, and we're talking about now Project B, um, but we're not going to talk about Athletes Unlimited. We never seem to say that, but somebody mentioned um, that they don't understand why people are trying to tear the CBA apart. I mean, the WNBA apart. Let me just say this. There is this thing, okay, um, that we call greed, all right? And I'm not so sure um, that this is about tearing the WNBA apart as much as it is about greed. So let me try to tell you where my head's at with this whole conversation. I'm a big Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers fan, and there's a song um, on I believe it's Hypnotic Guy, where one of the refrains is greed is the only American problem. And that's not far from being true, the absolute truth, okay? Um, so here's what we have. We have a WNBA that is um, clearly going through growth pains. Now, as I've said, the NBA holds a lot of the ownership of the WNBA, and they've made a direct choice to underpay these women. All right. And there's no excuse to underpay them now. Okay. Because the league is not in survival mode anymore. The league is thriving. All right. It's in that mode now where it's in a very high growth phase. So what you have, though, is you have a lot of contentious debate back and forth between the players and the management and the owners, okay, and the commissioner. And these other leagues, specifically Project B, because Unrival's been around now for a couple of years, but this is all about greed. This is all about being able to make money off, and it's also um, the idea that we can steal players from the WNBA and bring them into our league. But none of these other basketball ventures are really leagues, okay? I personally don't see them as leagues. They are, sidelines. Unrivaled is 3-on-3 basketball, okay? It's not basketball. Basketball is and has always been 5-on-5. Okay. I don't know what you'd call it. Okay. As far as Project B is concerned, that's total greed. Okay. It is. I mean, think about it. You are going to have WNBA players coming off a full season in September, and if they go into the playoffs in October, and then jumping right into a tournament type situation with Project B and staying on the road and keeping on going after playing an exhaustive season. Does this make sense to anybody? It makes no sense to me. Okay. All I can say is that all of these bit players, okay, and you already know my feeling on the Saudis, okay, they're doing this because they're trying to sports wash their human rights record by investing in, they've done it with other sports. They've done it in soccer. They've done it in everything else. They're trying to distract from the shit that they do to women, okay? And this is a way to do it, is to throw their money around. They got plenty of it, okay? Um, and as I've said, for women to take part in this, to me, I don't understand it. That's just my way, my thought process. I don't expect everybody to think like me, and fine. If you think you can compartmentalize that stuff, then go ahead and do it. But I can't. But I don't see them as directly trying to tear the WNBA apart. as much as I see them wanting to jump on the bandwagon and make some money. Now, yeah, they're paying big salaries, but technically speaking, what are these players going to get out of either of these leagues? Okay? What are they going to get? And that's what you have to ask yourself. First of all, 3-on-3 basketball truly does not interest me. I've seen it played, and it just doesn't interest me. It's not something I'm going to follow or report on. Um, do I think, for some players it's good? For some players it's good. I mean, if they want to go play in the off season and work on specific skills, that gives them the opportunity to do that. But to me, Project B is pure greed. It's trying to capitalize on something, and certainly playing tournament style basketball across Europe and Asia is more like the Olympics to me than it is like playing real basketball where you compete in a season, you have standings to follow, and then you fight for a playoff spot. To me, that's what competitive professional sports is all about. And, even the closest thing to me in my mind is Athletes Unlimited. But even the way they do their scoring to me is just too intricate and too confusing for me to understand why they add all of these caveats in there. And I don't know if you've ever seen any of that. I will delve a little deeper into that in another video. But the way people score, and they can get bonuses for doing certain things and all of that stuff. I mean, to me, that's more entertainment than anything else. So that's what I think. I think it's all about making money and knowing that women's sports is booming now. Okay, we have, the LPGA has been around for a long time. Okay, so for people to be saying that the WNBA is pissed off that Caitlin Clark is playing in the LPGA because it's a competitive, it's a competitive women's venue. No, it isn't. It's been around longer than the WNBA. Okay, so there was never anything ever said about Caitlin Clark participating in that. Nobody in the WNBA has a problem with that. That again is more false, fake news. Let's call it what it is. That's fake news. That's clickbait. Women's sports is booming. I mean, the Professional Women's Soccer League starts next year. Okay, we have a Boston team, and Aaliyah Boston is from Worcester, Massachusetts, and she is an investor in the Boston team. In fact, that was part of the pre-show stuff when we went to see them play in the Garden against the Connecticut Sun. So they had some of the players there from the Women's Soccer League that were watching the game. And, Caitlin Clark wanted to invest in the Cincinnati women's soccer team, but they did not get a franchise this time around. So we'll see where she goes with that. But women's sports are booming, and everybody wants to get in on it. And that's a good sign. Okay, it's a good sign in the sense that we know there's something there. We're going to be looking at women's sports now, finally getting its due. So that is why I'm saying that I understand they want to increase the salaries, and I agree with that. But their salaries only account for about 9% of the league's revenue. So they're not really getting much more than what they've already had. So let's talk about this. There's enough of a bucket of money now where they can certainly do more for the women than sheer revenue at 9%. Okay? I'm not saying 50%. The operating costs are still high. I get it. They're not quite there yet, but they're on an upward trajectory, and I don't see it going down. Okay? I don't. Especially with Caitlin Clark coming back healthy next year. I think she's a big part of this. And I've been saying this forever. Okay? I think she was the catalyst for all of this. I think we were growing anyway, but I think it exploded when she came onto the scene. Okay? So I think that they can do better by the women. I didn't say 50%. Okay. But certainly better revenue sharing than 9%. And let's hope they can come up with an agreement by November 30th. I haven't seen any detail anywhere on that, but I will keep you posted when I do. And in the meantime, I just want to leave you with this little ditty. This is not like basketball highlights, but I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this thing is for real that I'm going to show you. And honestly, I'm pretty sure there's not a sport that this girl could not play. So hang on here so I can show you this.
That's okay. I'll be ready. Okay. Move over there.
There it is.
Come on.
Boom, man, right at the
That's
top.
double.
Right at the top.
That's okay. I'll be ready.
One more.
Move over there.
There it is.
Come on.
Boom, man, right at the
That's
top.
double.
Right at the top.
You know, they asked Caitlin Clark, and you know how they do those rapid fire questions. They asked her if she played football, what position she played. She said quarterback, of course. So anyway, let's leave that there. I will have other highlights for us to look at. I'm going to see if I can dig up any information about what may be going on with these discussions. I looked today, I didn't find anything, but I confess that I was kind of tied up with the kids today, so I didn't have much time to dig deep. But in regard to starting a Facebook group, I think I'm going to give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? I take it down. You know, that's okay. I manage 20 groups on the political side, and it is work, but I have a little help with that. So that's a little bit different. This will be enjoyable, and there will be no Hatelins allowed, okay, and no fake information allowed. There's so much fake information on Caitlin Clark out there. I just almost feel compelled to battle it because that's my nature. But I will be back tomorrow, guys. It'll probably be late again because I got a bunch of errands to do. I'm working tomorrow, but I also have my daughter home for the day, and we're going to have dinner together. So it'll be after I get her back to where she goes, and then I will be on and I will talk a little bit about some other stuff. Okay, you guys have a great sleep because that's where I'm headed right now.